By now, the mystery has become almost impossible to escape. It wasn't intelligence. Many animals are intelligent. It wasn't fire. Fire had always existed. So perhaps the answer is something else. Perhaps humans simply became better at working together. That feels convincing. After all, cooking seems impossible alone. Someone gathers wood. Someone brings food. Someone watches the fire. Someone waits. It looks like teamwork. Case closed. Except, nature has mastered teamwork for millions of years. Wolves hunt together with astonishing precision. Lions surround prey from different directions without speaking a single word. Dolphins trap entire schools of fish inside circles of bubbles. Ants build living bridges using nothing but their own bodies. Bees construct cities more organized than many human neighborhoods. If cooperation alone explained cooking, then kitchens should exist all across the animal kingdom. But they don't. Once again, the obvious answer falls apart. Maybe we've been focusing on the wrong moment. We've been looking at the hunt, the fire, the food. But perhaps none of those are where the real story begins. Imagine returning to the same campsite tomorrow. The fire is gone. The ashes are cold. Everything has to begin again. Now, imagine something different. The fire is still alive. Someone protected it through the night. The wood has already been gathered. Children already know where to find more. Nobody stops to explain what to do. Everyone simply knows. That tiny difference changes everything. Not because anyone became smarter overnight, because yesterday still exists. Most animals solve today's problem today. Tomorrow begins from zero. Humans slowly stopped living that way. Yesterday began helping tomorrow. Think about that for a moment. A child watches an older hunter prepare a fire. The next evening, the child copies what they saw. Not perfectly, but well enough. Years later, that child teaches someone else. No one plans to create history. They're only repeating yesterday. But every repetition makes one remarkable thing possible. Very small improvements no longer disappear. One person discovers drier wood burns longer. Another learns which stones hold heat. Someone else notices that certain foods become softer than others. Each discovery is tiny, almost forgettable, yet none of them vanish. They remain, waiting for the next person to build upon them. Now compare that to almost every other animal. A wolf becomes an exceptional hunter. When that wolf dies, most of its skill dies too. A crow discovers an unusually clever trick. Perhaps a few others copy it. Perhaps they don't. The advantage rarely continues growing year after year. Human life begins following a different rhythm, not because every generation starts smarter, because every generation starts slightly further ahead. That is an extraordinary difference, but we're still missing one final piece, because none of this explains why waiting became worth the risk. Imagine the smell of roasting meat drifting through the evening air. It announces your location to every hungry creature nearby. Predators smell it. Rivals smell it. Anyone stronger than you can simply wait until your food is ready. Cooking creates a delay, and delay creates danger. So why didn't that danger destroy the habit before it ever had the chance to spread? Why didn't cooking disappear after the first few generations? Why did it survive long enough to change the future? The answer isn't hidden inside the fire. It isn't hidden inside the food. It isn't even hidden inside the people. It's hidden inside something almost invisible. Something humans accidentally created, long before they realized what they had built. And once it existed, history would never follow the same path again. Let's return to the very first question. Why would a hungry animal choose to wait at the beginning of this story? That decision seemed irrational. Now, it looks like the most important decision our species ever made. Not because waiting cooked the food, because waiting changed everything else. Throughout this journey, we've eliminated every obvious answer. It wasn't intelligence. Other animals are intelligent. It wasn't fire. Fire had always existed. It wasn't cooperation. Nature is filled with extraordinary teamwork. Each explanation solved part of the puzzle. None explained why cooking became a permanent habit. The real breakthrough wasn't a new tool. It wasn't a new resource. It wasn't even a new ability. It was something far less visible. Humans became the first species to build a way of life where each generation could begin where the previous one had ended. Think about what that really means. Imagine two children born thousands of years apart. The first spends years discovering which wood burns best, which stones keep heat the longest, how close food should sit to the fire. Every lesson is learned through trial and error. Now imagine the second child. They don't have to discover any of that. Someone already knows. Before they ever light their first fire, they inherit thousands of evenings of experience. Not through instinct, not through their genes, through people. That changes the rules completely. Most animals inherit bodies. Humans inherit accumulated experience. Every generation receives a starting point that already contains countless discoveries made by strangers who died long before they were born. That may be the greatest survival advantage our species has ever developed. Not bigger muscles, not sharper eyesight, not faster legs. The ability to keep knowledge alive after the people who discovered it were gone. Now the mystery finally makes sense. Cooking wasn't revolutionary because heat changes food. Lightning had been doing that forever. Cooking mattered because it became one of the first daily habits where knowledge didn't disappear. One person discovered something useful, another copied it, a third improved it, a fourth passed it on again. Small improvements became permanent. Permanent improvements became traditions. Traditions became culture. Culture became civilization. The fire was never changing meat. It was changing memory. And once memory could accumulate outside a single lifetime, human progress began to accelerate. The same pattern never stopped. The campfire became a hearth. The hearth became a kitchen. The kitchen became a workshop. The workshop became a laboratory. The laboratory became the modern world. Every major breakthrough followed the same invisible rule. Discover, remember, improve, pass it on, then repeat, again and again and again. That is why humans didn't simply adapt to the world. We slowly learned to redesign it. Long before skyscrapers, before writing, before agriculture, before science, that pattern was already taking shape beside an ordinary fire, which means we've been asking the wrong question all along. The question was never, why are humans the only animals that cook? The better question is, what was cooking quietly teaching humans to become? Perhaps the answer was never about dinner. It was about creating a future that no individual could build alone. A future where ideas survived longer than the people who imagined them. A future where every generation inherited more than a body, it inherited a better place to begin. Tonight, millions of people will prepare dinner without thinking twice. They'll chop vegetables, boil water, heat a pan, wait, just as countless generations have done before them. It feels ordinary, but ordinary habits often hide extraordinary stories. The first people who waited beside a fire could never have imagined cities, universities, spacecraft, or artificial intelligence. Yet each of those achievements followed the same pattern they unknowingly practiced. Take something ordinary, transform it, leave the next generation with something better than you received. Perhaps that's the real story of humanity. Not that we learned to cook, but that we learned how to make progress survive us. And once a species learns that, there is almost no limit to where the next generation can begin. If this changed the way you think about something as ordinary as cooking, you're going to see the rest of everyday life differently too, because some of the greatest inventions in history aren't machines. They're invisible habits. And one of those invisible habits is shaping your mind right now. Most people use it every single day, without ever realizing what it's doing. We'll uncover that mystery in the next documentary.